And so does everybody see the nuisance inspection services? Great. So this is a program that we did start, having throughout. So this is kind of what we've kind of worked out. So what we there we go. So the type of nuisances that we look for, typical chapters that are in the nuisance guidelines throughout the cities that have adopted are typically junk and junk vehicles, solid waste control and recycling, weeds and grasses, dangerous buildings, and building numbering. So we typically will go out and look for these items. If there's some that a community does not have, we can help with getting those chapters adopted. Kind of the only one here that is kind of questionable would be the weeds and grasses. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit later, but that one kind of needs to be somebody more on top of, perhaps somebody within the city that could easily access that more often. So working with communities for nuisance enforcement, we need to communicate expectations with the city with what they may have. Are you having specific issues with a particular problem? Are you more wanting to focus on junk vehicles or overgrown weeds or trees, general trash? What are kind of some of the things that the city has been seeing as a nuisance issue, kind of a broad spectrum type thing. If it's not one particular thing, we do cover everything, but a lot of times they like to ease into it and just kind of hit a more direct item than just kind of do a broadcast net. And then kind of the most important thing too, or one of the most important things is the city council prepared to enforce the nuisance letters? Because if we send out nuisance letters and the homeowners or renters come back and say, we don't want to do that, and the city council just says, well, okay, then it's not going to really be cost benefit to the city to hire us to do this program if the city council is not prepared to actually enforce the ordinances and the nuisance letters that we're going to send out. So that's kind of first thing that needs to kind of be discussed. Also look through the city nuisance chapters for enforcement. And this is kind of what we can assist with as well. What makes a nuisance? Are there exceptions that would cause issues? And then the time to comply with the nuisance. And so some of the, examples here, we have the first highlighted, this is under exceptions for junk and junk vehicles. And it says if it's on a driveway, it's not a junk vehicle. And then down in number 2, the second highlight, if the vehicle is on a concrete, crushed, compressed rock, or blacktop surface, even if it's unlicensed, it's still technically not considered a junk vehicle because of these line items. And so we kind of look for things like that kind of makes a stronger case for when we do send out the letters. Another one here, this is junk and junk vehicles. But this, where it says there, the highlighted and, so any junk vehicle that's unlicensed, just making it unlicensed is typically a junk, is considered a junk vehicle and a nuisance. However, if it's unlicensed, it has to have, in addition to being unlicensed, broken glass, broken or missing part, habitat for nuisance animals, flammable fuel, which that one's kind of an issue. I don't know any vehicle that doesn't have flammable fuel except for maybe an electric car. But it has to be junk, unlicensed, and one of the following. So we'd like to take out that and word and put in or something like that. And so that kind of makes it more inclusive and kind of is easier to enforce. So we'll inspect homes for nuisances. Any properties identified by the city, we will look at those first. And so what we'll do is we'll kind of come in and kind of break it up into quadrants. And so we'll start on one end and kind of work our way across. But if there's a house that the city has been having lots of issues with and they want us to start in that area of the city, we can certainly do that. And then what we do is we just drive the streets looking for nuisance violations. And we'll start kind of on the main streets, all the drivable streets. And then once we get into it, down the road, we will then start going down the alleys. And that's kind of when we start getting into some more issues. And that's not to say if we see a nuisance on the front of the house and there is an alley, that particular one, we will also go around to the alley and look at the backside too, because we don't want to only get half the picture on a home that we're sending a letter to. So we would then, get the backside and then also the front side of that home if we're there for the front side. We would then take clear photos to identify the nuisance. And there we don't step on the property. All of our photos will be taken either from the street or the city sidewalk or the alley. We can go on to neighbor's property if we have been given permission to do so, but typically we stay on the public areas. We would then prepare the nuisance letters and photo pages, and we would do that on city letterhead, but it would be our contact information at the bottom, but the top of it then would be city letterhead to let them know that it is kind of a city official business type of thing. They would then send that documentation to the city for approval to mail before we send them out. And we do this mainly because a lot of times, an individual may already be working with the city. And so if there's already an agreement set in, we don't want to kind of overstep that. And so we want to make sure that the city is on track as far as what we're doing. And it kind of opens up the communication as well. Then after city approval, we'll mail the letters out. First, we'll do regular mail because we'll start with a courtesy letter. And this is just, kind of a letter that's letting the homeowners know that, hey, this condition exists and that is a nuisance, just kind of informational item. And then so the next visit, we'll re-inspect where we mailed all the letters to the previous month. We'll come out and inspect those homes first. And if they don't comply within that first time, then we would send a certified mail and get that sent out. We would then re-inspect homes after sufficient time has passed for correction. Usually junk vehicles is 30 days, dangerous buildings is 90 days. And we can kind of work with that as far as the timeline on the chapters as well. So this is kind of a sample of what a letter we would send out. So up top, you would have your city letterhead, and then we were sending this out as regular mail, not certified mail. And then the date of the letter, and then the name and address. And then the reason we have name and address and then the RE address is because if it was a rental property, we would send a letter to the owner of the property and also to the address of the property. So if it's a renter, both the renter and the owner would get the letter. And then we would say this is a courtesy letter for the property located at that address. And then just let you know you're in violation of Chapter 105 Solid Waste Control and Recycling. And then we'd attach the photo page, and we'd say the photos were taken on X such date showing the nuisance. And then the photo pages, we actually circle the nuisance so that there's no question as far as what the nuisance is. This gives a clear indication what we're actually talking about instead of just saying, there's some garbage on your property, clean it up. That is very subjective as far as what are we actually talking about. And so this is kind of a sample of what we do on that. And so here's another one. So obviously we would just circle that like that, and that is a nuisance. All of these photos are photos that we have taken in the nuisance program and have gotten corrected. So a lot of these are very common sense, but some of them may not be. So here's a vehicle. So there's no license plate, so it's unregistered. It has a broken window out the driver's door. So we would actually call that out for a nuisance as well. clicked off. Forgive me, we got a little technical difficulty. It's not transferring to the next slide. No, it's good. There we go. So we would circle the car. The other items look to be licensed. There's nothing, no issues with those. So we would then just notice out the car. It's also not parked on concrete. So several items going on with that vehicle. Here we go again. So the furthest shed is a different property, but this property here, we have the lawnmower that's obviously been sitting there for a very long time. And then some items in the backside and also the weeds. Here we just have a lot of overgrown weeds and brush. And then there also is one that states that trees need to be trimmed up off of the concrete for trucks and such. And so then we would just call out where the tree needs to be trimmed back on that. And so that is kind of one, sometimes the city takes care of that, and sometimes the city calls out that the homeowner is responsible for that. So these are all nuisance. This would be a dangerous building one here that needs to be taken care of. And so really our overall on here is this is kind of our guideline for what we do with the enforcement. So ECICOG and staff review your existing codes and development plan. That would be looking at your chapters within your ordinances. And then ECICOG begins enforcement based on city priorities and allotted hours. So typically what we'll do is 3 hours on site, 3 hours off site monthly. Those are kind of a fluctuating little bit there. But then that, so on the smaller communities, sometimes we reduce that a little bit, but that is kind of our base price. And then ECICOG investigates and writes follow-up reports as issues are identified in the field. And then the last, the blue one, which is covered up for me, I don't know if it is for you, ECICOG issues citations and conducts follow-up inspections. And then from there, then we process repeats for subsequent citations. And then, so what we'll do is we'll typically send out a courtesy letter, and then if that's not corrected, we'll send out a certified letter. And then after that, we kind of throw it over to the city attorney. And that's what the bottom orange piece is there. So city staff attorney is responsible if court action is required. And so that's where we kind of work in, and really what we're doing at that point is we're kind of making a slam dunk case for the city attorney, because we've documented our visits with the photos that we've sent out, with the letters we've sent out. We've done a courtesy letter, we've done a certified letter, and all that's kind of documentation, so that when the city attorney comes involved, really all they have to do is file everything with the court. They don't even really have to visit the property. What they've done is kind of contacted us and said, hey, we're going to be going to court next week. And of course, we are obviously available to do that as well, to be a witness there. But they'll say, can you stop out and take some additional photos to show that it, even as of today, it's still not corrected. And so we'll do that as well. And then monthly, we would send the reports to the city. And that would kind of lay out where the process is, what letters have been sent out in past months, what we are, looking to do as far as how long they have to correct, any correspondence that we've had with that homeowner. Again, our contact information is on the bottom of the letter for them to reach out to. And so that's kind of what we do monthly on that. And then if it's corrected, then we just kind of take it off to kind of clean up that spreadsheet that we send out every month. And then we also do send copies of all the letters that were mailed out. With the mailings of the letter itself, the photo pages, we also send out copies of the actual chapter of the nuisance that they are in violation of. So there does get to be a little bit of mailing, but the mailing cost is included in the $5,400 a year. And so that is not an additional cost to you. The only additional cost would be the cost of certified mailings. So certified mailings can add up, pretty quickly. But that is the only additional cost on there. And there are some communities that we may not be able to hit the entire city each month, but we wanted to come up with a program that would be kind of budget friendly for the communities instead of saying, well, we spent 12 hours out there this month, so we're gonna hit you with a bigger bill. This is kind of something a community can kind of budget into their yearly budget and know that this is how much it's gonna cost. The only additional is, like I said, the certified mailings, and usually that will range between $5 and $20, depending on how many we send out. And so unless we get real crazy, but it's not a huge cost at that. So that is the end of my program, or my my presentation. But if there are any questions, we'd be happy to address any of those. You can either do the questions in the chat box, or I think you can unmute yourself and ask those if you want to do that.
Hello?
No questions?
No questions?
Someone to try to get
All right,
on.
well, if you are interested or would like more information, I'm happy to
Wait.
visit communities. Oh, Renee.
Wait.
Someone's trying to get on. They have a question, but they can't seem to get on. They're in the mailing.
Renee, we can't hear you. I don't know. You may need to type in. This presentation may need to be set up to where we can't hear you, to where you're not able to unmute.
Here's your volume on.
Check your message.
It's on the bottom shelf. Yeah, it's up.
Check your chat.
There you go. We can hear you.
Thank you. Somebody was trying to get on, and before you close, I was just trying to get your attention. He's in the message box now, or whoever it is.
Yeah, Derek.
Okay, Derek. What's Derek saying?
Is there a certain amount of communities that would make it hard to continue the program? Is there a maximum amount?
No, there's no maximum amount as far as how many programs sign up. Actually, the more communities that sign up kind of make it easier for us and kind of save, because when we can kind of organize our travel to hit multiple communities at the same time. So no, there's no maximum as far as how many communities can sign up for the program. We'll keep taking on. If we need to hire more people, we'll do that.
Any other questions before we wrap up?
I don't now, but I might later.
Well, feel free to reach out. Zach can send out a follow-up to all the attendees with my contact info. And so if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out.
That would be great. Thank you for this program.
You're very welcome. If you're going to be a copy of the PowerPoint. Yep. Yeah, we could provide a copy of the PowerPoint. And we can visit any city council meeting if you'd like as well to talk about it.
Wonderful.
That's all I have.
Well,
Okay.
thanks so much for spending half an hour with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Try and stay warm.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Then all.
Hey, Bio con Dios.